The Galactic Academy's training grounds fell silent as Cadet Jorvik limped toward the medical bay, 3 parallel gashes bleeding through his combat suit. Behind him, 2 sleek forms prowled the perimeter, Vek and Rena, the apex predator cubs that had arrived 6 months ago as part of the Academy's new xenobiology integration program. Every species in the galaxy knew of the apex, 4-legged death incarnate, with obsidian scales that could deflect plasma fire, retractable claws that cut through reinforced steel, and intelligence that rivaled most sentient races. Adult apex stood 8 feet at the shoulder and were apex predators on 17 different worlds. These cubs, barely 2 years old, were already the size of Earth lions and twice as dangerous. "That's the 4th cadet this week," muttered Commander Zilrath, his chitinous plates clicking in agitation. The insectoid officer reviewed the incident report on his datapad, mandibles twitching. "Perhaps we should reconsider this program. The cubs are simply too aggressive for standard training protocols." Instructor Rhea Talon stood nearby, observing Vek and Rena through the reinforced observation window. The human woman had joined the academy only 8 months prior, yet she'd already earned a reputation for her unconventional methods. Where other instructors relied on strict discipline and combat prowess, Rhea taught through patience and understanding, traits most alien species found peculiar, if not outright weak. "They're not aggressive, Commander," Rhea said softly, her brown eyes tracking the cubs' movements. "They're testing." "Testing?" Zilrath's antennae flattened against his skull. 3 cadets hospitalized this month alone. "If this is testing, I fear what failure looks like." Rhea smiled, a gentle expression that had unnerved more than one alien colleague. Humans, they'd learned, showed their teeth both in threat and in warmth, a contradiction that baffled most of the galaxy. "Permission to enter the training grounds, sir." Zilrath's compound eyes widened. "Instructor Talon, that would be inadvisable. The cubs have already proven hostile to," but Rhea was already walking toward the entrance hatch, her movements unhurried and deliberate. The commander watched through the observation window, ready to sound the emergency protocols. The moment Rhea stepped onto the training grounds, both cubs' heads snapped toward her. Vek, the larger of the 2 with distinctive silver markings along his spine, lowered into a hunting crouch. Rena circled right, her tail lashing in predatory anticipation. This was the same formation that had taken down Cadet Jorvik in under 30 seconds. Rhea stood still. She didn't reach for a weapon, didn't activate her shield generator, didn't even tense. She simply sat down, cross-legged in the center of the training ground. The cubs froze, confused by prey that refused to flee. Vek took a tentative step forward, a low rumble emanating from his chest, a sound that could liquefy the courage of most species. Rhea remained motionless, her breathing slow and steady. Minutes passed. The observation deck filled with instructors and cadets, all watching the human who sat defenseless before 2 of the galaxy's most efficient killers. Vek approached first, moving with the fluid grace of a creature designed for the hunt. He circled Rhea once, twice, his nostrils flaring as he analyzed her scent. No fear pheromones, no aggression markers, just calm, steady presence. The cub sat down 3 feet away, head tilted in confusion. Rena, always the bolder of the 2, moved closer. She extended her neck, sniffing at Rhea's shoulder, her hot breath disturbing the human's dark hair. One swipe of those claws could end everything. Instead, Rena made a sound, not quite a purr, not quite a growl, and pressed her massive head against Rhea's arm. Slowly, deliberately, Rhea raised her hand and placed it on Rena's scaled head. The cub's eyes half closed, a rumbling contentment replacing the earlier aggression. Vek, not to be outdone, approached from the other side. Within moments, both cubs had settled against Rhea, their combined weight easily exceeding 300 pounds. The human simply ran her hands along their scales, speaking in low, soothing tones that the observation deck couldn't quite hear. "Impossible," Zilrath whispered. "Apex cubs imprint on their pack leaders through combat dominance. The human showed no strength, no aggression. How? She showed something better," said Dr. Kellyan, the Academy's xenopsychologist. The Quellian's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as understanding dawned. She showed trust. Unconditional, unafraid trust. Over the following weeks, the pattern became clear. Vek and Rena still tested the cadets, still stalked, still hunted, still demanded that trainees prove their worth. But each evening they would return to Rhea's quarters, curling up on the oversized bedding she'd requisitioned. The cubs who terrorized trained soldiers by day became gentle companions by night, their fearsome heads resting peacefully in the human's lap as she read reports or planned lessons. Cadet Jorvik, cleared by medical, returned to training with renewed determination. This time when Vec charged, the cadet didn't panic. He'd watched hours of footage showing how Rhea interacted with the cubs, not as threats to be dominated, but as individuals to be understood. When Vec leaped, Jorvik sidestepped and extended his hand palm down, non-threatening. The cub skidded to a halt, confused. Then, miraculously, he butted his head against the cadet's hand before bounding away, the apex equivalent of approval. Word spread through the academy and beyond. The human who tamed predator cubs without force, the instructor who taught that patience could be stronger than strength. That understanding could triumph over intimidation. One evening, as twin moons rose over the academy, Commander Zilrath found Rhea in the observation garden. Vec and Rena sprawled beside her, their massive forms somehow appearing vulnerable in sleep. Their deadly claws retracted, their breathing synchronized with the human's gentle touch. "How did you know they wouldn't attack you that first day?" Zilrath asked. Rhea looked up, her hand never ceasing its rhythmic movement along Rena's scales. "I didn't know, Commander, but I understood something important. They weren't attacking because they were vicious. They were attacking because they were scared. Taken from their homeworld, surrounded by aliens, tested by everyone who saw them as weapons instead of children." She smiled, that peculiar human smile. "Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is sit down and show you're not a threat." Vec stirred in his sleep, his tail wrapping protectively around Rhea's waist. Rena's ear twitched, listening even in dreams. "Your species continues to surprise us." "Instructor Talon," Zilrath said quietly. "Good," Rhea replied, scratching behind Vec's auditory ridge in exactly the spot that made him rumble with contentment. The galaxy could use a few more surprises. And in the peaceful silence that followed, with two of the galaxy's fiercest predators sleeping trustingly in her lap, Rhea Talon proved what humanity had always known, that courage wasn't the absence of fear, and strength wasn't measured only in force. Sometimes, the greatest power was simply knowing when to be gentle.